What if I told you that your best quality, that empathy you have, that deep desire to help someone who's hurting, is also your single biggest vulnerability? It's a really tough paradox to think about, but in the world we live in now, online, your kindness is something that criminals are actively looking for. Today, we're going to do a forensic breakdown of a crime that does way more than just steal your money. It hijacks your compassion and literally turns it into a weapon against you. And that quote right there just nails the whole idea of sympathy baiting. See, this isn't about someone yelling at you or threatening you. It's a quiet, covert manipulation of your best instincts. The scammer's whole game is to make themselves look completely helpless and to make you, specifically you, feel like their one and only savior. It's this manufactured dependency that fuels the entire fraud, creating a little private world where you're the hero and they're the person only you can rescue. So, how do they get in? Well, they don't have to invent some new human weakness. They just take advantage of a built-in cognitive bias we all have. It's called the Identifiable Victim Effect. We are all just hardwired to respond to one single powerful story. One face, one name, one tragedy. A story about 1 million starving children? Well, that's just a statistic. But a story about one starving child named Amara? That feels like an emotional emergency. And that bias is the key that unlocks our logical defenses. And yeah, eventually our wallet. To protect ourselves, we have to understand the machine. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to break down the scammer's psychological tools, profile the exact vulnerabilities they search for, map out their entire process step by step. And then, and this is the important part, we're going to build a powerful forensic defense to make you totally immune to this kind of manipulation. All right, let's start with the weapon itself. This isn't about some sophisticated hack or technical trick. The tools these scammers use are purely psychological, and they're all designed to weaponize your natural desire to help. The first thing you have to understand is that this is a psychological crime first and a financial crime second. The money, that's just the final step. The real crime scene is the emotional manipulation that gets them there. They have to capture your heart, They have to get you emotionally invested before they can even think about getting near your bank account. The whole operation is built on that foundation. And they do this using something called Vividness Bias. They'll send you, say, a grainy photo of a kid in a hospital bed, or they'll describe a horrible event with these gut-wrenching details. These emotionally loaded images and stories are meant to just overwhelm you, to create a kind of cognitive overload. Your logical brain just shuts down. And in that moment, the very thought of asking for proof or verifying the story starts to feel like you're being cold, heartless, like you're betraying this person who's suffering right in front of you. So we know the tools they use, but who are they aiming at? Now, this is not about blaming victims, not at all. It's about understanding the specific traits and, even more, the environments that scammers actively hunt for. Think of it like a forensic profile of their favorite hunting grounds. Scammers are really strategic about this. They don't just cast a wide, random net. They go to places where empathy is the default setting and trust is basically the local currency. I mean, think about it. Bereavement groups, church forums, local community aid pages, these are high-trust zones, filled with people who are naturally inclined to be agreeable and helpful. A scammer walks into these spaces knowing that skepticism is going to be low and the desire to help is going to be high. They're literally scraping these communities for kindness. And get this, there's actually a biological switch they're trying to flip inside of you. It's called emotional contagion. When a scammer acts out panic and desperation and fear, they are trying to trigger that in you. It's a primal human thing. Their fake anxiety can become your very real physical anxiety. You start to feel the urgency of their made-up crisis in your own body. Your nervous system is now working for their life. Okay, now we get to the core of the whole system. This isn't a random act of trickery. It is a predictable, repeatable process. You can think of it like a machine with very specific stages, and each one is designed to pull you deeper and deeper into their illusion and further away from reality. So let's just walk through this 6-step playbook. First, targeting. They find you in one of those high-trust communities we just talked about. Then comes disclosure. They share some vulnerable, tragic story that's been perfectly engineered for maximum emotional impact. Next up is the hook. They invent a sudden crisis, an eviction notice, a surprise medical bill, and there's always a ticking clock. You have to act now before you have time to think. Then, the most critical step, savior identification. They tell you that you, and only you, are the one they can trust. You're special. You're their last hope. And that leads to extraction. The request for money, always through untraceable methods like gift cards or wire transfers. And finally, concealment. They just vanish. Or they might invent a new tragedy to explain why they're gone, and maybe try to get more money. Okay, every single step before this is just the setup. This is the crucial moment. This is when the trap springs shut. It's that psychological point of no return, where their story, their manufactured pain, crosses a line and becomes something you feel personally responsible for solving. You've now emotionally committed. You're not just watching anymore, you're an active character in their fiction. And right here is where the manipulation flips and the whole power dynamic inverts. All of a sudden, the person who is begging for your help is now in a position of moral authority over you. If you start asking logical questions like, why can't your family help? Or have you tried any official charities? They don't answer with facts, they answer with guilt. They'll imply that your questions are hurting them, that your lack of immediate blind trust is a cruel failing on your part. And that leads us to the psychological choke point. The scammer has successfully reframed what is just a financial transaction into a huge test of your character. It's not about the money anymore, it's about whether or not you are a good, compassionate person. The pressure is just immense. This technique is called Moral-Coercion, and it is brutally effective at silencing any skepticism you have left. So why does this work on smart, kind, caring people? It's because the scam was never designed to fool your intelligence. It's designed to hijack your morality. To really get this, we have to look at the internal psychology that makes us all a little bit vulnerable. We all want to believe we're good people, right? Well, there's a psychological principle called self-signaling, which basically describes doing something to prove our identity to ourselves. A scammer masterfully turns the act of sending them money into this powerful, tangible signal of your own compassion. By helping them, you get to reinforce your self-image as a caring person, and that feels good. It feels good to confirm that part of your identity, and that good feeling is exactly what they're exploiting. So let's put this side by side because the contrast is pretty stark. In your reality, you believe you are showing compassion. But in the scammer's engineered reality, your psychological need for self-signaling is being activated. You think you're being trusted with a secret, which feels like a special bond, but what's really happening is you're being isolated from friends or family who might see what's going on. You feel like you're making this profound moral choice, but you're actually being subjected to calculated moral coercion. Okay, we have now completely deconstructed the attack. So now, let's build the defense. The tone here is going to shift from analysis to strategy. This is all about empowerment and giving you clear, actionable rules to build a psychological firewall that no sympathy scam can ever get through. These are the undeniable red flags. If you see these, alarm bells should be screaming in your head. First, financial exclusivity. They refuse any and all official help, charities, agencies, and they will only accept a direct, untraceable transfer from you. That's because official channels have verification. Second, a ticking clock. The crisis demands an immediate decision, which stops you from being able to pause, think, or talk to anyone else. Third, savior identification. They tell you you're the only one who can help, isolating you with this false sense of importance. And finally, the privacy window. They ask you to keep it all a secret, maybe to protect their dignity. No, this is only to stop anyone else from exposing their lie.
This next step is your most powerful tool, and it is absolutely non-negotiable. This should be an automatic reflex anytime you get a photo as proof. Remember, scammers rely on stolen images to trigger that vividness bias. A reverse image search is your forensic tool to just dismantle that. It takes less than 30 seconds, and it can instantly show you if that photo of a sick child is really a stock photo or from a news article 5 years ago or from a dozen other scams. This one simple action can make the whole fiction just evaporate. So the core principle of your entire defense comes down to this, the system first rule. Your empathy is a precious, powerful resource. It deserves to be used effectively and safely. This rule is a commitment to direct your desire to help towards verified, established organizations, registered charities, official GoFundMe campaigns, community institutions, not towards an unverified emotional story from a stranger online. This doesn't make you less compassionate. It makes your compassion smarter, and it ensures your help actually goes where it's needed. We've gone through the anatomy of the scam and the strategic defense protocols. So let's bring it all together and wrap this up with a powerful tool you can carry with you. A way to reclaim your empathy from anyone who would try to weaponize it. Let's just summarize the entire system we've deconstructed.
Sympathy baiting is not just a sad story. It is an emotional coercion system. It works by using Vividness Bias to trigger an intense emotional reaction, and then it creates a moral lock-in to bypass your natural skepticism about money. Its success hinges on exploiting two of our cognitive shortcuts, the Identifiable Victim Effect and our own desire for self-signaling. Just knowing these terms gives you the power to see the attack for what it is and dismantle it.
So I want to leave you with this mantra. Let this be your guiding thought. My empathy is not an ATM. I help through systems, not through scripts. Your compassion is one of your most valuable traits. It's not an open cash machine for anonymous people online. You can be a deeply empathetic person while also being a discerning and protected one. By choosing to help through verified systems and not unverified scripts, you protect yourself, you honor your own kindness, and you make sure your compassion truly makes a difference.